Hey guys, do you remember collecting trading cards back in the day? I don't know about you, but I'd spend a lot of time flipping through stacks of these things, sort of like how I scroll through social media today. And in this video, we're taking another trip into the nostalgic neighborhood with these classic Donruss BMX cards that I collected as a kid back in the 80s. And then I made a few custom cards that I think you're going to like too. So there's a few different style of cards in this set. One group is individual rider cards, and this is kind of like baseball cards where you've got the rider featured on the front, and then on the back side it kind of talks about a little bit of their bio and some of the stats or maybe achievements that they've had in their racing careers. So those are cool. Some of the cards are focused on specific bikes. So in this case, this is a Torker 280, and it lists off all the different components, and there's a little section here that's called evaluation, where it kind of talks about the purpose and goals when they were designing the bike. Some of the cards, like this one, are factory team, kind of overview of the factory team, which is kind of cool from Redline here. And then others are just kind of a generic, I don't know, in this case it's called Schwinn BMX Action. And it just kind of tells the story of Schwinn's involvement in BMX back in the day. But as I was revisiting this amazing piece of nostalgia, I realized that a couple of my favorite brands were missing from the original collection. And one of those is GT Bicycles. They're a giant in the BMX world. Somehow they didn't make the cut back in the day. And we're missing guys like Eddie Fiola from this set, which is kind of a shame. And then there's Monza, who weren't around back in the 80s, but they're making a splash today. So I've got the checklist here, and the set has 59 cards. It features 10 different brands. There's about 33 different riders in the set, and then there's 17 of these like individual bike spec cards, and then I think there's 4 or 5 teams kind of featured in there. And so let's go through and we'll chat about some of my favorites in here. The first kind of few are Hutch. It's not all of the Hutch cards in here, but a couple that just really stood out. Like I said, I've been a fan of Woody Itson through the years, him and his Trick Stars back in the day. I can't wait to get that bike put together. I'm still waiting for the stem to be made available. But yeah, we've got Woody Itson. We've got Mike Buff when he was still on the Hutch team. And just he's such a classic pillar in the BMX community and still totally relevant today. Then we've got Brian Deem. This photo here is really awesome at the Pipeline Skate Park. And then we've got Tim Judge here doing a pretty sick tabletop. So yeah, Hutch cards are awesome. Then we've got this Hyper card. I don't remember Hyper from back in the day. Maybe you guys do. If you do, maybe drop a note in the comments on what your experience was with them. And then I picked out a couple of these just kind of like bike highlight cards. So here we've got a Schwinn Predator. It's a classic 80s bike. It's got all its stats on the back. There's a Redline 500A. It's really cool with the classic white and black scheme. Kuwahara Laser Light. And if you recall from the E.T. movie, that E.T. and Elliot, they did their kind of moon sequence. They were on a Kuwahara. And I don't know if that E.T. movie was before or after this card came out. But I gotta imagine this is kind of a nod to that with the moon kind of in the background. So that one's really cool. And then just a couple others. Raleigh Racing. I picked this one out because it's one of the few cards that kind of features a freestyle. So this guy, Ron House, I'm not familiar with him, but he's on a quarter pipe here, which is a really cool photo. And then lastly, Team Murray. And I know they had like a pro level team, but back in the day, they were known for all of their department store bikes. And before, I guess I had a Huffy Sigma, which was total department store bike. Before that, I had a Murray, and I remember those commercials. It'd be like, Murray moves you faster.
See Murray bikes at JCPenney stores and catalog desks.
And eventually I got a Dyno Detour. And then moved on to skateboarding. But I really like this picture because this is kind of a fun shot of the guy jumping down the hill with all of his teammates kind of cheering him on as he goes. So that's really cool. As much as I love my blue GT Performer, I've been on a real Monza kick lately, and I couldn't help but make some fake cards to kind of include in the set. The Monza vibe just really screams 80s to me. This set's probably from around 1985, 1986, and these Monza bikes just sure kind of fit that era really well. So this first one here is me riding at the pump track last week. It's a screen grab from one of the videos. And then on the back, I've got a little bit of summary of the Nostalgic Neighborhood YouTube channel on there. And then here's one kind of in the style of those other bike cards, like, you know, comparing the OG Schwinn card to this Monza. So I've got the 26-inch Monza with the white color here with the spoke wheels. And then on the back, I've got a summary of its frame geometry and stuff. And then this spring I really connected with some of the other Monza enthusiasts on YouTube, Cruising in the 808 and Brandon over at BMX Dreamin'. And I reached out to those guys the other day to see if they'd be cool if I used some of their pictures and logos to create some of these cards, and they were cool with it. They thought it'd be kind of a chuckle. And so these next two cards are Kevin and Bernie from Cruising in the 808. And this first one here of Kevin, this is a photo from the Monza website itself. But this is such a cool and classic photo. I feel like it just fits in perfectly. And then in the back, I put a little bit of Kevin's bio that he's got listed on his website, as well as his logo on there. And then I've got Bernie here, and this is a screen capture from a recent video they did maybe earlier this spring when they did an unboxing and assembly of their 24-inch Monza. This is, I guess, when they're taking it out on its maiden voyage test ride. And then on the back here, I've got Bernie's garage logo and just a little, they like to call themselves the Brocanics. I've got a couple of notes about that on there. And then this next one, we've got Brandon from BMX Dreaming. And all three of these guys were all kicking it with Monzas down in Texas a couple of weeks ago at the BMX Roundup down there in Austin. And I guess Brandon took Kevin and Bernie around and kind of just showed them around town. Took them to some restaurants and stuff. But he took them over to this pump track, and there's a whole bunch of BMX dirt jumps back in the background. But I grabbed this shot off as a screen capture from Brandon's, one of his most recent videos, and I just thought it was really cool with the 24-inch there. And then on the back, I've got his logo, and he kind of has on his catchphrase on some of his social medias, "It all starts with a dream." So that's really cool. So if you're not familiar with Brandon or Kevin and Bernie, I'll put links down to their channels below. They all produce really great content and some super cool dudes, so I highly recommend checking them out. And then this last one is GT. I don't know why GT wasn't included in here. There may have been some like political or financial reasons. I have no idea. But it is a shame, especially we're missing people like Eddie Fiola from this list. But so I couldn't help myself but to make a GT card as well. So I did that with my 26-inch GT Performer, and then again made that kind of same background here on the back. And so I just thought this was kind of fun. It's kind of stupid and silly, but thought you guys might get a kick out of it if I shared them anyway. So there we go. And there you have it, guys. A blast from the past and a nod to the present, all in one colorful, nostalgic collection here. And I guess my last question for you guys is, do you remember these from back in the day? Did you have any of these cards? And if so, were there any that stood out as favorites to you? Any favorite riders or bike brands? Or maybe are there any riders that you think should have been included that weren't? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. And I really hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane as much as I did. And if you did, be sure to like the video and then stay tuned. I've got this Hutch Trickstar reproduction bike. I got one last piece that I really need, and that's the Hutch Freestyle stem, and that's supposed to be released in another 4 to 6 weeks. And then I'll get that thing built up. So I really can't wait. So stay tuned for that. And until then, keep those wheels spinning, and we'll see you in the next video.